Welcome to the Strive for Good Life podcast, where freedom and abundance meet entrepreneurship. We uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets of business owners who've built life on their terms. Ready to create your own success? Let's dive in.
All right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Strive for Good Life podcast. I'm here with Travis Holzem, who is the owner of Food Forest Design Minnesota, and I'm super excited to talk about his story, how he got into entrepreneurship, and lots of different things. I'm really fascinated by this whole permaculture thing, so we're going to have to talk about that a little bit and all the different businesses you've been involved in. So welcome to the show, Travis. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Look forward to it. Should be a good time.
Yeah. I really enjoyed just the chat we had yesterday, getting to know each other a little bit. And I really want to start with, your first business. So I know a little bit about what you did, marketing, right? But how did you get into that? What kind of gave you the entrepreneurial bug and made you realize that, you wanted to be out on your own with your own business?
Like we talked about yesterday, I was back in a long time ago, 1998, right? I had young children, young boys, and I wanted to be able to stay at home and raise them, but I also want to be in business for myself. I want to be self-made. And at the time I was in the bar business. So I was bartending and bar manager, and I would throw all the change I had from my tips every night into a big bucket. And after 6 months, I saved it all up for 6 months. It was a really busy bar, so it wasn't like I was throwing a couple of dollars in change every day. And in 6 months, I had $4,000 in quarters and change. So it was like a massive amount of change. And I had a friend of mine who built computers, and he built the first computer for me. And back then, it actually cost $3,000 to build a computer, which is really sad because you can get them for a few $100s today, But he built it, and then I started building websites. And that's when Google came out in 1998, and I learned SEO, search engine optimization, and I was off and running. And then I started my own web development agency after a while, after I started learning how to build websites. Didn't go to school for it or anything, so all self-taught. And I've been an artist my whole life, so designing graphics really interested me. So I got Photoshop and learned how to design graphics. So everything I've done is no schooling. Everything I've done, I've learned, I've taught myself. So I've been a web developer. I had a small agency office and worked with a lot of startup companies, built hundreds of websites, and worked with a lot of startups. And so that was my first business. And I got to stay home with my kids and raise them, and I got to work out every day without having to worry with a job getting in the way of that. So, and it kept me sane. And like I told you yesterday, in 2007, I became a single father and had 3 boys at home with me. So that whole working out every day kept me sane and kept me from jumping off a bridge, right? Because raising 3 kids by yourself is a lot of work. And so you want me to keep going all the way to where I'm at now?
Yeah, I mean, we could take a pause real quick and get into that. I mean, just the things you've covered already. So you're a single dad at one point, raising 3 boys. So obviously you need the flexibility of being able to work from home, because otherwise, I mean, how would that even work, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think you get a lot of credit. I mean, not many people could do that, to take on not just raising your children, but then also working full time, having to provide and balance that. Starting a business is challenging enough on its own, right? So I'm just really impressed. But that's what I love about entrepreneurship, is that it creates this opportunity to have flexibility and to be able to do stuff like this, and be flexible with your time, be able to kind of shift things around as needed to be able to be there for your family, for your boys. And I just think that's incredible. So I really appreciate that. I grew up with a single mom, and so I know how tough that can be. And I can't imagine doing it myself. I'm so grateful for my wife. So just kudos to you. I just wanted to take a moment and say that.
And when I became a single father, I had to actually go to court to get full custody of my boys. And where I live in the state of Minnesota, normally when you get a divorce, automatically mother gets kids, right? And the father's outside looking in, and he's lucky he gets visitation half the time, in the county I live in. So I had to not, go to court to get custody of my boys, and I couldn't afford an attorney at the time. So I had to do this all myself. So sticking with the same thing, being self-taught, I stayed up night after night learning how to be an attorney and represent myself in court, and figured things out and ended up getting full custody of my boys. And, so yeah, it's just crazy when you're determined, the things you can accomplish, when your back's against the wall and you're desperate, and, it worked out for me, and I got full custody of my boys, and here we are, and they're successful now. And, they're gym rats just like their dad. And, it was tough, but it was a fun ride. And I look back on it now, I'm like, how'd I do it? But then I look at them now, I'm just so happy. They're amazing boys. They're 26, 24, and 21 now. And, they're monsters, they were in athletic, involved in athletics their entire life, baseball, football, and wrestling. And they experienced a lot of success. I actually got them into the school that kicked my school's ass in wrestling. And I brought them there not only because of the program, but because of the coaching and the people in that program and the leadership. And they all got to experience being on a state championship wrestling team.
Wow.
And my youngest happened to be on 4 in a row. His whole high school career was being a state champion. They lost one match against a team from Iowa and never lost to a team from Minnesota his whole high school career, which was amazing, So they got to experience that. And then he was also the starting pitcher as a freshman on varsity, all left-handed pitcher. So I coached baseball with them. That kept me sane too. So yeah, and then it couldn't have worked out any better. Now I have girlfriends. I'm waiting for grandkids now, so.
Yeah, that's a whole other phase of life, right? I think that's incredible that you've done so well with everything that you had on your plate, to be able to also provide these amazing opportunities. And I'm assuming that it was because you had your own business that you were able to do all this stuff, right?
And family too,
Yeah.
my parents, and, they were there for me, and they helped out a lot too. And if I didn't have them and everything else, I don't know where I'd be right now,
Yeah, you've kind of mentioned a couple times that you have I guess there were these things in your life that kept you sane, like working out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you attribute a lot of your, I guess your ability to persevere and push through these things? Would you attribute that to kind of your workouts or keeping yourself in shape?
Yeah.
Because I think in this day and age, so many people have mental health issues now. And I don't know if that's just a symptom of, us spending more time in front of screens and not, working with our body. I don't know. But I think it's a lot of correlation.
It's a lot of that, and I think people are so easily manipulated now by social media. And what do the Jones have that you don't, right? The Joneses down the street, I want to be like them, or, everybody puts this big front on social media, like I want to be like them, and well, I'm less than if I'm not, I think it's a lot of that, and when you go in to the gym every day and you're doing things for yourself, and then you can see the results in the mirror, that it really does things for you, and one thing about going to the gym for all these years, I've watched people lose 100 pounds, many people they come in the gym and they're just severely overweight by 100, 150 pounds, but I get to know them. I see them every single day when I'm at the gym. And I'm like, wow, that's so motivating. And that's what keeps me going back to the gym, because if they can do it, why not keep going to the gym? I'm already where they want to be, but they keep me motivated, and it's amazing to watch them. It's crazy but when you go talk to some of them, after they lose 100 pounds, you're like, you're a completely different person, and like, wow. And their faces light up like crazy, but that's what I love about the gym too, other than keeping myself in check, just seeing other people accomplish what they want too, and it's perseverance and consistency, and that's, I guess you could translate that to anything in life.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting. Entrepreneurship is this mental game, right? Where you're just competing against yourself constantly and
Mhm.
trying to find ways to keep yourself motivated, keep yourself energized so that you can do the work that you need to do. And so, I think it's interesting, right? That everyone has these different ways of doing that, and going to the gym. Yeah. And using the success of other people to motivate you. I mean, that's awesome.
And
Um,
like you said, oh, sorry to interrupt you. We are our own worst enemies, period.
yeah.
And we always self-sabotage. And I've done it hundreds of times, and you just got to learn how to get out of your own way a lot of the time. It's just crazy. I don't know if you've ever, self-sabotage, because I don't know, sometimes it's just mentally, you just don't think you deserve it sometimes, and
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I run into that constantly. There's all this self-doubt that I have because I'm trying new things and I don't, I'm doing it alone, right? Kind of in
Mhm.
isolation. And so I don't have anyone to really bounce ideas off of a lot of the time. And so I'm always questioning, like, is this the right move? Is this what I should be doing? Is this actually going to work? And as you kind of get the reps in, it becomes easier to try things and to put yourself out there. But I was always really introverted growing up. And so, especially doing marketing, it's almost this counterintuitive thing for me. Because I naturally, just my personality is I want to hide away from the world, and I don't want to put myself in front of people. And so it's a weird mental thing for me, for sure. And I have too many days where I allow the self-sabotage to overwhelm me. And so I'm constantly trying to think of new ways to beat that, right? And
Mhm.
overcome it. So yeah, it's a fascinating topic to talk, strategies around that. But I want to get more into your business and what you're doing now, because so you were doing the marketing, websites, SEO stuff. Um, Tell us about the transition that you made into the business that you're doing now and why that came about.
Well, okay, first of all, I've always been fascinated and intrigued by watching a seed grow, putting it in the ground and watching it just, within a week or sometimes a couple of days, it sprouts, and all of a sudden it's coming out of the soil, right? And then just grows, and just like, wow. And then you get something out of it once it's fully grown. And my mom had a garden in the backyard growing up, and she always had her tomatoes and peppers and all that other stuff, cucumbers and stuff. And so I always planted my own stuff in her garden because I liked cantaloupe and melons. So that was one of my favorite fruits. And so I had some seeds, I put them in the ground and grew my own cantaloupe, and just, it was awesome. And then I got to see them grow from a seed to full grown, and I got to eat it. And I'm like, what a reward at the end. And and then when I was a kid, I had a twin brother growing up, identical twins. So I always had someone to hang out with every single day. And then we had a group of friends from the neighborhood, and all around the neighborhood, everybody had gardens or fruit trees and berry bushes. And you got raspberry bushes and blackberries and stuff hanging through their fences, you know? So we could ride our bikes around the neighborhood and we could go pick food wherever and get a snack every single day, no matter what. And neighbors weren't mad because they don't care. And or apple trees and pear trees, plum trees, and that was always on my mind, you know, and I always wanted, when I had some land, I wanted to, you know, just have a big area to grow in and grow food. And back in 2014, I'm still doing, you know, have my web design agency, doing freelance too. And I saw an image of on Facebook, a friend of mine put out as a prototype of a greenhouse. And I think I told you about that yesterday. Um, and this greenhouse it was like a greenhouse on steroids, you know, and it was 100% self-sufficient. It wasn't just a normal greenhouse. It had uh, a water catchment system on it, so you can funnel the water into large tanks. One was for potable water. The other tank, these are 250-gallon tanks. The other one had tilapia in it, so raising fish. And then it was a hydroponic system inside of the greenhouse. So the tank's on the outside. This is in Florida, by the way, so you can keep the fish outside all year. Up in Minnesota, we're gonna have to bring them bad boys inside, you know, unless they're inside the greenhouse and it's heated. That's different. But so this had aquaponics, it had hydroponics, and on the inside of this greenhouse, there was a thermal or a dehydrator to dehydrate all your extra food. And then on the outside, attached to it was a biodigester, so you can make cooking fuel. And then a chicken tractor. So you had chickens, and then you can move this chicken tractor around your yard so they can, you know, chickens can scratch in the grass and eat everything. And, you know, then you got your eggs, you know, just cool system. And then above the chicken tractor was this solar powered bug zapper light. And so it'd attract the bugs and it'd zap them and they'd fall into the chicken coop, you know, and chickens love bugs, you know, so it was just, everything was in this system. And once I saw that, I'm like, everybody needs to have one of these in their yard. And so I asked my friend, I go, how can I get involved with this, man? And he's like, well, you know, I have one building a prototype down here in Florida right now. Come down and see it. And I was going down to Florida, to Orlando, for a different company I was involved with for a week. And I went down to Florida a day early and met Jim, got my rental car at the airport, drove to Jim's house, and we drove to this prototype, and I actually got to see it. And talk about amazing, right? It's just from this image to the real thing, you know, and it's just awesome, you know. So like, let's do this. And we were trying to get it to market and everything, but trying to find a manufacturer to make this thing, to build it so it's affordable for everybody, was just too difficult. It was, I think, $25,000 just to have them made. So then when you add everything else on there just to make money for yourself, it was out of the normal homeowner's price range. So had to scrap it kind of. And then we developed other systems similar and different styles and tried to go with a franchise route. But a franchise was too much paperwork and there's just a bunch of nonsense just to be a franchise. And so that didn't work. You know, it was just all these hurdles to get these awesome things to the marketplace, which everybody needs them, you know, but it was just all these roadblocks in the way. And we just like, and then we're talking over a period of years, and now we're getting close to COVID. And everything, the whole entire world shuts down, right? So everybody's stuck in their homes, and everybody's businesses got shut down too. So my friend, he got shut down in Florida. So he calls me up. He goes, all right, Travis, it's time. We got to figure this out. We got to, you know, we need to do something. And we came up with the, you know, seeing landscapes everywhere, green grass everywhere, but no food on them. You know, we're talking, you know, you go around the United States and you see green grass everywhere, just empty. And it's all full of chemicals, you know, to keep weeds from growing, right? And there's just no life in these landscapes, and no wildlife, no butterflies, no bees, because there's nothing to attract them. And so it was like, we need to transform these lawns into food forests and food producing landscapes. And that was, it started from there. And so we found someone who was a designer, a permaculture designer, and then we started getting people down in Florida to let us design their yards. And then I flew down to Florida and helped out with a couple, and then we got our break. We got a show called The High Wire by Del Bigtree. It's a podcast it's on every week. He's a former executive producer from CBS, and he's won awards and stuff like that. And we drove to Austin, Texas, and we installed a food forest at his studio, and they filmed us for a week while we put this in. So we drove down there, just the two of us drove down there. And
how did you get that deal? I'm curious. How did you set that up?
Jim, Del Bigtree was at a freedom movement down in because Florida was open. They weren't shut down like everybody else. So Del Bigtree was speaking at this freedom convention or rally, whatever you want. And Jim went down there and met him. He wrote this thing down and said, hey, we can solve all the world's biggest problems. Give me 2 minutes. He bought him a beer, you know, and within, you know, they became fast friends because he was interested. Well, then he hired us to go down and install this food forest on their studio grounds, and filmed it and created a documentary. And it's on my website. It's called Creating Abundance in Your Backyard. But we didn't know anybody in Austin, Texas. So a couple of people we met on Facebook from the area that were interested in helping us. So we found some helpers, but we had to find a soil expert because we didn't know anything about the soil there. So we drove around Austin and we found this nursery, a completely organic nursery. And this guy had been living in the area for 50 years. And he's had his nursery for, I think, 45 years. And he knew all the soil types in the area. So we talked to him. We ordered all our soil to bring up and all our mulch for the install. We're like, would you like to be in a documentary? You know, and we can give a shout out to your nursery and you can come up and be on camera. And so he's like, yeah. And he was a fan of Del Bigtree. So it just all worked out, you know, and things just happened to come together. And so we had him, he got on camera during a documentary. We filmed it over 5 days, and then it came out on Earth Day in 2021. And here we are a few years later, and it's starting to trend upwards.
Yeah. So that was kind of the catalyst then that really kicked this out.
That was a catalyst.
So
I'm in Minnesota. He's in Florida. So
yeah,
I had to build my own business up here because, you know, Minnesota is a completely different animal because you have a short growing season. There's winter up here.
right.
And I had nobody up here to help. So I just built this from nothing and never been a permaculture installer. I had to, you know, learn all about permaculture. So I took permaculture courses and learned. And then, you know, I did my few installs down in Florida, but now I started doing installs up here. Now I'm looking at close to 30 installs now. And so, and everyone's completely different. And you learn more and more.
They're all
and through this business, I've met other designers that have 15, 20 years experience that I learn from now and lean on if I run into problems, and they're mentors of mine, and I still talk to them all the time. And it's just, everybody has the same mission. So it all works out.
Yeah. So you said that a couple of times that, things just come together, things all work out. Right. But I want to stop and I want to highlight the work that you have to put in. Things don't just happen automatically. Right. I mean, if we rewind your story a little bit, right? Like being in Minnesota, you have to go down to Florida, you have to get involved in someone else's project. And then, it's not that you just jump in and it works right away. You have to pivot and you have to adjust the designs and you have to kind of redesign your business almost, right? So that you're doing build outs and not just, building these greenhouses, I guess. And then you have to bring in permaculture experts and even going out of your way to make that connection with, with the podcast host and then driving out to Texas to doing the build there. I mean, I think this is what defines success. This is how things come together, is when you put in all of the extra work that most people won't do. Most people would have given up after that first roadblock of realizing, oh, this greenhouse is going to be too expensive. Right. And that's kind of where they stop. Whereas you guys just kept pivoting and kept trying to find ways forward and kept making connections and kept, bringing in experts. And really that is where the success happens. That is where the magic brings everything together, right? It's in the hard work and in just persevering and finding new ways to move forward constantly. And so, you guys get a lot of credit. And I mean, that's the thing is it's so easy to think that these businesses just blow up overnight, right? Because we only see glimpses of their story on social media or wherever on the news, right? But this is the reality of it. It doesn't just happen automatically because you've got a good idea, right? There might be 10 iterations that you have to go through with your idea before you get to one that works. And then it's still a journey and you're still on it, right? You've got a business partner that's in Florida, you're in Minnesota. So you're, essentially building a whole nother business out here, or where you're at, right? So.
Yeah. And I built the website for the business. I built the entire back end of the company, the whole process of, when someone buys a design from us, well, now there's a questionnaire. We got to figure out, what do you want to grow in your backyard?
Right.
What grows in your grow zone, so there's so many factors that go into a design. So I had to build out that whole back end design, the process. When someone buys a design, now they're in the process. So now I have to get that all figured out. Without that website, without the back end of there's no business, because there's no process. Well, and here's where, we're talking roadblocks and, try to be successful. I did all of this and drove down or flew to Florida, and we drove to Austin, Texas. And, I was part of starting this company. Well, then the investment capital came in. And then after that, I was no longer needed. Right. So I got shut out. I got talked out of giving up the website to, hey, let's hand it off to a company so we can concentrate on building this business together. That's a great idea, because I love to get away from being in front of the computer screen all day. I want to be outside installing food for us and talking to people. And, that's where I wanted to be. And that's where I wanted this to go. And I'm here in Minnesota. He's in Florida. So I got completely shut out of everything with all the decision making of the business. And I gave up my control of the website and then completely shut out. Right. But this new company did not take my website that I built. They rebuilt another one from scratch. So I still have my website. So I have my own business here as an installer, designer installer business. And so basically I had to rebuild from nothing again. And so and I had no mentors on how, like I was so green and such a rookie, right? So there's no one to teach me how to do this. So then I had to put this process together for, doing quotes, sourcing trees, sourcing soil, everything that comes along with doing this. And then I had to get those jobs done. So here I am, my own website, my own social media. So doing everything again by myself. And lucky I had the gym, because I go to the gym every single day, and that kept me going. And now today I have this business. It's still going. And, I got screwed over by this. But as long as the company was going great, I watched it happen. But then I also saw a lot of things not to do. I learned what not to do to people who are giving you money. You don't screw them over, and so all the shortcomings of that business will never happen in my business, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because, permaculture is all about people care, earth care, and fair share, right? People care is the one. And, people that are, and they see what we are doing or what I am doing, they want to be involved. Well, they want to bring that mission forward because they believe in it. Well, if you give me money and then all of a sudden I don't deliver to you, what am I doing? So yeah, I overcame that. And now, he got his millions, I got nothing. Right. So, and, a lot of promises were made to me that weren't kept, that still haven't been kept today, but I moved forward. And now all the people that got screwed over besides me are now all coming to be part of my journey, because I care about them, and I have a system in place that's going to train them and help them start their businesses, so now I can teach others. If you want to start a permaculture installation business or design and installation business, well, guess what? I have a training program that will take you from not knowing nothing, and I'll be able to train you up to be able to start your own permaculture design and installation business.
Wow.
So now I am, besides my local business here, doing residential and commercial installs and stuff like that, I'm starting a network nationwide to basically build install teams all across the country, and I can design anywhere because I have a network of installers or designers from all over that I still work with, because I didn't screw them, so they
Yeah, well, integrity matters so much in business, and I love what you're doing. If for anyone listening out there, right, if you're struggling to come up with a business idea, this is the future. I mean, there more and more people are going towards sustainable living, homesteading, permaculture, and so there really is a future in this business. I don't see it ever slowing down. If anything, it's just going to keep accelerating, and so I think it's cool that you're now training other people to do it. I want to talk a little bit about, I mean, obviously you got to roll with the punches to survive in business, and you've clearly done that. I want to talk a little bit about, because of your marketing background, and that's what we do. I love talking about marketing. I want to get into the things that are working with marketing and how you're actually, getting more clients for your business, and also, recruiting more people to actually train them up in it. So what are you doing with marketing right now that's working for you?
Well, being after I got screwed, right? And still, I didn't have that capital to spend on marketing and advertising. And when I'm outside doing installations all summer, I'm not doing any marketing because I can't be inside, right? I can't do that. So I didn't have the money to put into the marketing side. So things were growing slowly. And so my whole thing was social media. Everything I do from the moment I walk someone's property, I'm filming it. I got my GoPro, I get there. So you got your before shots, I'm taking video of their property before I get there. I go take all my measurements, take 50 to 100 pictures of their property. And then I get home and stay up late editing my videos, putting the images up to the website, posting the videos on YouTube and then Facebook and then Instagram, doing all my social media. And then get back, and it's just the whole cycle is work, social media, and no money in the bank to do marketing and advertising. So that was my whole outreach other than word of mouth. And YouTube has been a blessing because now I have about 380 videos, I think, posted on YouTube. And every day I'm making videos and putting them up. And I've actually been out on an install, actually over in Wisconsin, because I'll drive 3-4 hours for a job. So had this one in Wisconsin. I'm in the back in this 1 acre property, actually putting trees in the ground, and my phone rings. And so a woman here in Minnesota, and she goes, "Hey, Travis, I'm watching one of your videos right now on YouTube, and I'm moving into a new house. And I have 9 acres on my property, and a lot of it was wooded area. But she's like, this is my last house I'm buying. They're in their late 60s, early 70s. She goes, I always wanted a food forest. I always wanted an orchard and in my backyard." She goes, "Can you do this for me?" And like, yes. She goes, "But just tell me how much, just send me, how much does it cost?" And she said, like, so I actually got a deal right there, right then and there. There's no selling involved. It's my YouTube channel sold everything. And that it's not the only one, but that was just amazing because I'm out working. I don't have time to be marketing all the time, but my videos on YouTube were doing the marketing for me. And she happened to find me. And, so that's, yeah.
Just for anyone listening out there, YouTube is a search engine. And so the videos that you put up there, they live there forever. And so anytime people search certain keywords, your video will pop up, right? And especially if you're a local business, you can rank really easily just by putting the right keywords in there. And then people will find you very quickly, very easily, right? And start coming to you. That's the whole strategy behind it. And like you said, if you don't have a budget, there's no better way to do it, right? Just shoot videos, document everything. That's all you have to do is document what you're already doing. And then just share that with people, and make sure you've got the right keywords. Obviously, there's some strategy in terms of the SEO behind it and how you present it, but it's really not that complicated.
Yeah, and I have that background, the SEO background from all those years of doing SEO. So when you look at a lot of my videos on YouTube, you'll see Minnesota in every title or food forest design in every title if it could fit. If it doesn't fit, I won't put it in there, but there's still keywords in my titles that are going to attract somebody if they're doing a search. So,
yeah.
So locally, I'm the boss. When you search for permaculture or food forest design in Minnesota, normally I'm the one coming up.
Yeah. And not just on YouTube either. I want to point this out that when people do Google searches, your YouTube videos pop up, right?
Yeah.
And so
you're owned by Google. So
right.
You get your Google search results and your videos at the same time. So you get both.
Right. And that's why it's so important to actually put the state in, or if you're in a specific city that you're Yeah. So for anyone listening out there, this is some really important advice here. This is a great strategy to use for actually getting leads, generating leads. So I love that you're seeing success with that. That's exactly the kind of stuff we want to share with people.
Mm-hmm.
I just realized that we're right at our time limit essentially. But it's been a really fun conversation. And the thread that I'm seeing, I mean, I love that you're such a DIY guy, right? You do everything yourself. As entrepreneurs, I think maybe that just comes naturally. We want to do things more ourselves or have greater control over our lives and our incomes, but I love that you've done so much for yourself. And for me, I always ask the question, like, is it better to lean more into doing everything myself or to outsource it? And there are different discussions and different purposes for each. But I love the work ethic. And that's the biggest takeaway for me is no matter kind of which way you lean, you got to put in the work. You got to be flexible. You got to be pivoting always. You got to be persistent in constantly finding a way forward. And what you said about, your satisfaction, watching seeds grow into plants that you get to reap the benefits of later. I mean, that's how a business is, right? You put in the work, you water that seed, and eventually it will bear fruit. And so for anyone out there that's listening, if you're struggling with your business, just keep at it. Just keep putting content out, just keep marketing yourself, and things will magically, right, quote unquote, come together when you've done the work. And so I really appreciate your example.
One thing now, I've, like you said, DIY, I've done it all. And I've built this business up that is ready to explode and scale, right? So, and I want to outsource. I want to have other people do work for me so I can concentrate on growing. So at this point, I'm looking for investors to come in. So if anyone's out there that looking to invest in a great business, get a hold of me.
Yeah. Tell people where they can get in contact with you.
Yeah, you can find me at foodforestdesignminnesota.com. It's either Minnesota spelled out or MN. I have them both, so we can't mess that up. So they both redirect to my website, and you can also find me on YouTube at Food Forest Design Minnesota, on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm out there. So a lot of people say you're everywhere, so you can find me, and you can't miss this haircut. So I've become the most well-built permaculture installer and designer out there. So I haven't seen any well-built ones out there. So
yeah. Well, I love what you're doing. I love just everything about your message, and your story is really inspiring. I really appreciate you being on the show. For anyone listening out there, we'll have Travis's links in the show notes, so go there to connect with him. But yeah, thank you for being here, Travis. And for anyone listening out there, make sure you're, wherever you're watching this, subscribed or following us. And please share this content so that we can get these incredible stories out there. But thank you again, Travis, for being here. And I'll see everyone in the next episode.
Thanks a lot, Nino. It was fun to be here, man. It was great. Loved it.